I was going to try and make these a little bit more interesting, but I figure it's just as easy to give you the biohacking tips, and I didn't want to miss anything, right? So I really want people to understand that menopause doesn't have to mean a decline. So I wanted this week I've done a deep dive into biohacking for menopause and trying to understand if there are things that we can do, what would they be, and what works best. And I've come up with my top 3 tips for whatever stage of menopause you're at. So you can start this in the perimenopause stage, you can continue it through menopause and into postmenopause because they're all going to be helpful. So the 3 lifestyle hacks I want to talk to you about. The first one is actually high intensity interval training or strength training. Now, this is something that I did quite a bit through my 40s. I had some injuries, and so I was actually trying to manage my injuries. So I'm going to say probably more towards like the second half of my 40s. I probably didn't really start interval training until I was about 45. But it's one of the things that I think really does help to maintain the testosterone element. So short, sharp workouts, they build muscle and they improve your metabolism. Okay, the second thing I need to talk about is sleep. And for all of you who are already in menopause, I'm sorry because this is going to sound like, yeah, and you'll roll your eyes because you'll try all of the sleep hygiene habits and they don't seem to make any difference. But deep sleep is your hormone reset switch. And so it's really important to do the best that you can to try and get good, deep REM sleep. So there's a couple of hygiene habits that you can take on and some things that I remember trying at different points. You know, having a hot shower and then going into a cool environment, because most of us will have a hot shower and will crawl into bed, right? But actually making the room cooler, or in fact cooling your own body down before you get into bed, then actually kind of helps to trick the brain. Some of the other natural supplements that you can take to help sleep. You can look at all sorts of different things like valerian and those sorts of elements if you want to go down the supplement path. But in terms of good sleep hygiene, using blue light glasses in the evening, not being on your phone, in the bedroom. In fact, keep the phone out of the bedroom. No television in the bedroom either, right? Try and make sure that the room is as dark as possible. Try a meditative process. One of the things that I find that really helps me get into a decent sleep pattern if I'm having trouble getting to sleep, which is one of the things I experienced post-menopause, was actually to use what's called a yoga nidra. You'll be able to find them anywhere on YouTube, really. My favorite yogi, I use his, but it can be as little as 15 minutes and it just helps to get your brain down into theta and actually help you to sort of switch off. So, deep sleep is really important in terms of maintaining your hormone balance, particularly through perimenopause. But it's also the problem point because at perimenopause is when we often start to experience some sleep disturbance. And that's because of the loss of progesterone. So some of the supplements I'm going to talk to you about are the things that you should maintain because they'll help you maintain longer periods of progesterone before it drops off. So the idea is in perimenopause, you want to elongate it as long as possible. And yeah, I know everybody's going to sit there and go, I don't want my period anymore. I get it. But the longer we can maintain sex hormones in the system, the healthier we are, the better off we are, and actually the better that we manage cortisol spikes. And it's the cortisol spikes that come from stress that are usually at the base behind the burnout. So, the last thing I'm going to talk to you about is yoga and meditation in general. So, the problem is that what happens in this sort of postmenopausal body, or as we hit in perimenopause, our body is not coping with stress as well as it used to, and you just don't bounce back like you used to. You get spikes in cortisol, and the whole that stress element that comes into it. You don't bounce back as fast. So yoga and meditation. A lot of people will roll their eyes at meditation. If you can't handle meditation or, even practicing some mindfulness, just try and find something that you can do. Doesn't matter. A slow walk, right, in a nice space while you are actually being mindful of where you are and what you're doing and not thinking about, the 10 emails you didn't answer before you left the office will be really helpful. Remember to always start those practices with those 3 deep breaths because it just allows you to ground and be fully present. And make sure that you give yourself that time and attention, right? After all, you deserve it. So, supplements, really quickly. There are some supplement hacks that are really important just in terms of foundational nutrients. So I'm going to say broad level, multivitamins, obviously, but in particular, you want to think about things like vitamin C, magnesium, zinc, and vitamin D. So they're the ones that are associated with your immune system, right? Vitamin D we get from the sun, but a lot of us are deficient in it. And actually, vitamin D is really important in terms of helping to manage cortisol. So, vitamin C, magnesium, zinc, you'll often find vitamin C and zinc in some immune supplements. Don't doesn't matter which one you do, but ideally about 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C seems to be best. Zinc, magnesium, vitamin D, they give you the raw nutrients for your body to at least be able to, maintain hormone levels because they're the base level of what you need to make and to produce them. Ashwagandha is a really good supplement because it's a go-to adaptogen for stress and sleep. So it helps both. It helps to reduce your cortisol and it helps to improve and induce sleep. So an ashwagandha, and I'm not sitting here telling you exactly which branded supplements, at some point in the future, I might think about doing that. But right now, just good quality ashwagandha, have a look for yourself and just try and get the one that you think feels like it's the best one. I will at different points share what I'm taking myself. So I'm about to actually add an ashwagandha supplement and the other one I'm adding in, which is fenugreek. So it's a rare herb that supports both estrogen and testosterone. So for energy and libido, it's actually shown to boost both. So it's really good actually to maintain, especially, through that later stage of perimenopause and into menopause where you want to try and keep your estrogens up and your testosterone levels up. Okay, so they're my top 3 tips: lifestyle and then supplements. And these simple hacks can work across all of the phases of menopause, right? In my new book, I'm actually going into a deep dive in, what are the different biohacks, how you might be able to use them, and what phase of your life they work for you best. But just start small, stay consistent. It's not a matter of, taking on everything at the same time. But if you've got a specific issue, then please leave a comment and I will address it in the one of our gathering events. If you haven't seen or come along to a gathering, there'll be a link on the page here somewhere. Feel free to join us. Come and meet a whole bunch of like-minded women who, like you, would like to understand a little bit more about what's going on in their body and how their midlife is affecting their mental health. All right, be brilliant.